Imagine staying in this gorgeous house just steps from the Atlantic Ocean, where you're pampered with spa services, served delicious meals, encouraged to relax and unwind, and all for free. But this is no ordinary shore resort. It's a refuge for women with cancer, where they can recharge, become more empowered, and bond with other women who understand exactly what it's like to be on this difficult, sometimes terrifying journey. That's all up next on Still Time for Joy, where we share practical advice for weathering life's storms and inspiring stories of resilience. Hello, I'm Sandra Levine, host of Still Time for Joy. My guest today is Michele Gannon, co-founder and executive director of Mary's Place by the Sea in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we're going to talk about everything Mary's Place, how you got started, your plans for the future, fundraising, and more. But first, please give listeners an overview of Mary's Place and the services you provide.
Mary's Place by the Sea is a retreat home in Ocean Grove, New Jersey, where women come, and while they're here for 2 nights and 3 days, they receive oncology massage, reiki, guided meditation, nutrition education. We have sound bath meditation, counseling, and most importantly, they receive connection with one another.
And all of these services are provided for free for women with cancer. How do they become involved with Mary's Place? How does it work for women who are interested?
Our mission has grown through word of mouth with women while they're being infused in the hospitals and outpatient areas. They're social workers, social media sites. And when a woman hears about what we are offering to them, or they're searching it online and they find a women's retreat for cancer patients, they check in on our website, marysplacebythesea.org, and fill out a reservation inquiry. And then we call them and we get them scheduled.
So let's talk a little bit about how all this got started. Back in 2009, I read you were home with the flu and you had 3 young children, 2, 4, and 6 years old. And of course, they didn't have a lot of sympathy for you that you didn't feel well. They wanted you to get up and be mom. So how common is it for women who are struggling with any kind of an illness to not be able to just take care of themselves? And is that part of why you started Mary's Place?
That was the spark. It was just recognizing that I was struggling with the flu, and I also was battling endometriosis and all that comes with it. And I just physically couldn't do all the things that my children were accustomed to me doing. And as you said, they were small and they were just piled around me in the bed and they kept poking me. Are you better now? Now? And I felt that they were vulnerable, but so was I, because I felt this, I call it quiet desperation, where I knew that I needed to get up and do what they were accustomed to me doing as their mom and their caregiver. So when I started to feel better after a few weeks, and the depression had set in because my well-oiled machine had completely broken down, I was really impacted by this, thinking, what does a woman do when she's stricken with a long-term illness that isn't going to go away in 4 to 6 weeks? Something like cancer. Who is giving her permission, but more importantly, is she giving herself permission to just say, I need a minute? And it's just to step away from all of your responsibilities as a mother, as a spouse, as a caregiver, maybe to your parents, in your work life. And I feel like it is something that every woman can identify with at any age, because we are accustomed to being needed by other people. And when we, in fact, need a moment for ourselves, we seem to be the last ones to give ourselves permission. And I think what happened was I threw that idea up into the universe, and the universe responded. Within a few weeks, I had a dream. And in that dream, Mary, Jesus' mother, came to me. And it was a very, very poignant dream. I felt like she came to me not as unintimidating spiritual religious woman, but she came to me as a woman and a mother who understood what we walk through, the walk that we do as moms every day. And in the dream, she walked me through the town of Ocean Grove, headed towards the beach. And as we were walking, she put this idea of Mary's Place by the Sea in my heart. And that was January, as you said. And by June, we had started a nonprofit.
Wow, that happened fast. So it's grown so much, and it is just an amazing place. And I congratulate you on everything that you have done. So I met you once, and I told you that I had started a podcast, and it was about finding joy, reconnecting with joy after you've been through trauma or difficult times. And you immediately understood what I was talking about. Isn't that part of what happens at Mary's Place?
It's absolutely what happens. And I think it happens unexpectedly. It's not something that we will promise to our guests before they come. We just watch it happen organically when you put 8 women together in a setting, a seaside setting, and you curate all of the services for them to get in touch with themselves and kind of hear their heartbeat again, feel supported, and treat them and nourish them, mind, body, and soul. Suddenly, I think a woman comes down from out of a massage, and she looks years younger. She has color in her cheeks. She might have taken off her wig or her head covering and let her head breathe. There's freedom. And watching the ladies connect in this emotional level is magical. It's emotional, and it happens in such a short amount of time. But we hear the laughter by lunchtime, and we hear it around the table, sharing stories, and they're able to laugh at what they're going through and find the humor in it, even though it is a very difficult journey for most women. Our guidelines are for women who are diagnosed, from diagnosis up to 2 years post treatment. So please keep in mind, a woman could be at any one of those phases, whether she's in the middle of it receiving her treatment or whether she's at the end of it. Much different for every guest here. And I feel like what happens is the women completely understand if they need to be supporting each other in a certain way at whatever phase they're in. And it's just a beautiful thing to watch, Sandy.
Yeah, it can be so isolating when you have a serious illness. Perhaps you have an illness that you don't know anyone else who's going through the same thing, and there's just no one to talk to about it, no one who gets it. And I'm sure that's what this is about. When women get in the room, they don't even have to say much, probably, in order to know what one another are going through.
It's so true. And then at the same time, I've heard a guest share a few weeks ago in our meet and greet. She said, "I'm so happy to come here and to talk, have the freedom to talk about what I'm going through because I feel like my family's tired of hearing me and they don't want to hear me talk about it anymore because it makes them uncomfortable. But I really need to vent through a lot of things that I'm going through." And I think it's permission. Each one of them felt that permission to be able to share their story in a beautiful way where it's not heavy in the room. There's so much laughter and joy. And I think with each personality, all the women just understand how to let them each connect with one another.
You talked about, in brief, some of the services Mary's Place provides. Let's just go a little deeper with what kind of services there are to help the body, the mind, and the soul. What
Mhm.
are some of the most important services you think you provide?
So I find the oncology massage is just a great place to start their retreat. It allows our guests to really recognize that they're in a different place. It's going to be a different day for them. To have a massage therapist, oncology massage therapist, really address all of their aches and pains and educate them on whether lymphedema it might be setting in, or how their scar sites are looking for, where all of that is happening, their incisions, and it's such a wonderful time for them. The Reiki is also one of our most preferred services as well, and that is an energy healing where most women come out of there deeply relaxed, and they usually fall asleep and then have such a spiritual experience. With our guided meditation, that's something that everyone can resonate with, of learning how to shut your mind off for just a few minutes, and that takes practice. But we do feel like it's showing them how to relax. And then our sound bath meditation is becoming one of the most preferred services as a group, where the women are laying in our sanctuary on these beautiful mats, and our practitioner, Kate, is taking them through sound therapy that just is a therapy that hits at the cellular level. Expressive writing is a group service that most women are a little bit reluctant to go into, and they say, I'm not a writer. And our practitioners can show them that it's not about having a talent of writing, it's about being able to connect your thoughts and your emotions through a pen onto paper. Because nowadays we're so accustomed to typing into a computer or tapping away on our phones. But the art of actually writing and getting your feelings out. We started that session blocking it for an hour. We've had to move it to 90 minutes, and we have to beg them to come out of the room after 2 hours. We also have therapeutic painting classes where the women are just with a therapist and a practitioner, just doing art therapy that is allowing them the self-expression. So putting together individual services and then group services is a perfect combination to allow women to connect with themselves first, and then to be able to open up to other women. And it seems to be the right recipe for the retreat.
Speaking of recipes, I've also read that the food is fantastic. Tell me about the types of meals that are prepared at Mary's Place. And also, I believe you do some nutritional counseling with your guests.
We do. Our program is all plant-based, the food that we offer, and we believe in the methodology of plant-based food being anti-inflammatory. We're able to provide breakfast and lunch for them. And the lunch could be a crab cake that's made with artichoke hearts, or a taco bowl that's made with mushroom meat. And so we're showing them, and then we also have a cookbook for them if they'd like to purchase, to take those recipes home with them. We're showing them that there are different ways to nourish themselves, and to kind of go along with let food be thy medicine. It's so funny. Some women will just have to have their regular food that they're used to, accustomed to, and they'll bring it with them. And we encourage that, as long as it's not meat. We don't cook meat in the house. But they'll take their cooler and put it aside. And I would say almost 10 out of 10 times that food never gets touched. They take the whole thing home with them. So I think we're doing well by the food. And they're finding that it is nourishing them, and they're feeling so much better if they have gastric issues or fatigue or nausea. Our food is just kind of helping them through while they're here.
Now, you started out small back in 2009 with just a couple of rented rooms, and today you have this amazing, amazing house just about a block from the ocean in Ocean Grove. Who built that house, Michele?
So my husband and his team built the house, Gannon Building and Remodeling, and that was a little tricky at first, Sandy. So we had 3 different contractors bid on it, and it was a closed bid. I was recused of it, of course. And our board came out of the boardroom, and I just kind of held my breath and wondered who was it going to be, and was happy with anyone, because I do believe in my faith that it's all meant the way it should be. And when they told me that it was going to be my husband Paul and his company, I was ecstatic, because then I knew that I could be very close to this project from beginning to end. It did cause a bit of stress in our household because we were customer and builder for 18 months. But the project, he embraced it with every bit of passion that I have for this mission. And his subcontractors did the same, and they were so generous. Many of the things, the crown molding and the different appointments around the house, were not on the plans, the original plans, because we didn't have the funding for it. But they brought their best because they did that for the women who would be coming here. And when a guest walks in our doors, as you experienced as well, it's very important for us for it to be non-clinical and just feel like you're in someone's home, a warm environment at a seaside coastal resort. And that lends itself to a woman just instantly relaxing. So it's so important for every bit of this house to send that message to a woman, and it's carefully thought through, all the details.
It is absolutely beautiful. And yes, the women who are undergoing cancer treatments or having surgeries are used to being in very sterile hospitals and sometimes depressing, cold environments. And it is absolutely the polar opposite at Mary's Place. What about being a block from the ocean? The ocean is a healing place in and of itself. What role does the ocean play in helping women along in their journey?
Being one block from the ocean is part of our service, I would say. You know, living in this area in Monmouth County, most of us know how healing the ocean can be. But keep in mind, the women who are traveling here, some are coming from such landlocked areas that they've never even seen the ocean. Or for some women, and I have heard this a few times, and it really did rock me to my core. They said, I have to get in the ocean because this will be my last time. And that was something almost like a beautiful ceremony that we all embraced for a guest. So having our guests sit out on the porch in the morning and have their tea or coffee and overlook the ocean and they're journaling, I feel their stress just melting away from them. Having them walk along the ocean side, in the shoreline, and then coming back and just chattering about it with shells that they've found or rocks that they found, as sea glass that they found, then I know that they're taking a piece of themselves away from this. Watching a guest from a distance just sit on a bench and gaze at the ocean for hours, I know that so much is being thrown emotionally into that ocean. And in the meet and greet, I share with them, whatever the weather is, to bundle up if it's cold, put on a rain slicker if it's raining, but to get down there, because I said anything you throw into the ocean is not coming back. And I said, including, because I like to infuse a lot of humor and lighten the room up, I was like, including your flip flops, your hat, your sunglasses, it's not coming back. But think about that too for a lot of your fears and your anxieties and your worries. Just throw them in there and visualize them going into the ocean and not coming back. And it's a town itself, not just the ocean and the ocean air, but this small community where guests can walk into town as well and feel like they're in a town where people are going to say hello to them and acknowledge them. It's all part of the retreat and the experience.
Yes, Ocean Grove is a charming small community with roots as a Methodist camp meeting association. And I just love going there. It's just a beautiful, warm, friendly community. So perfect place for Mary's Place by the Sea. I also wanted to ask you how you and the staff and volunteers, you have a tremendous number of volunteers who are helping run Mary's Place. How do you cope when someone who was a guest at Mary's Place passes away?
It's not easy because we are meeting women. We have the gift of meeting them on a very emotional, raw, and authentic level. And, I can completely understand why the medical community must protect themselves with their patients, because I can't imagine having so many patients and feeling so emotionally connected to them. But at Mary's Place, it's part of what we do, and we get to know them and sit around the table and have coffee with them and sit around the fireplace and hear their stories. And so when they pass away, their families call us, and it's like we're losing a family member, we're losing a sister. And it does weigh heavily on each one of us, but we also have learned to feel like this is such a blessing and a gift for us to be a part of this woman's life. And I feel like each woman makes us a better person. It's a reminder of what's so important in life. It's a reminder of self care. It's a reminder to slow down and tell your loved ones that you love them, to make the most of things, to live each moment like that. And sometimes people in our society don't have the gift of that reminder on a regular basis, and we do. So we try to flip it around and look at all of the blessings and what we gained from knowing that woman.
Sure.
And we always say that they leave a piece of themselves here in our home. And then having the family stay connected with us. This seems to make sense to be the place. So when a guest passes away, the family we will always invite them to come and visit Mary's Place, visit the room where she stayed, look at some of the sessions that she had, so that they can feel like they were a part of this. Is where she enjoyed herself so much and felt so free, and maybe left so much of her anxiety and her fears here and left them, and went home a better, lighter person. And so it makes sense to us to stay connected to the families.
Sure. That's beautiful. So, I want to ask you something about the effect of your work on your children. So,
Mm-hmm.
my mom struggled with Alzheimer's disease for a good 10 years plus, and she passed a couple of years ago. And my husband and I have one daughter who was young when my mom was diagnosed, and she had a front row seat to the journey, and some of it was quite horrific. And if I had to say a couple of positives that came out of it, the one that comes to mind first is that it taught empathy to my daughter. And I know she learned it from having gone through that experience. I read about your daughter and something she did in the grocery store this morning that actually brought me to tears. Can you please share that with our listeners?
Sure. My kids were, old enough when I started Mary's Place, outside of my youngest, who was 2, but they were old enough to understand that life was changing in our household, that they were going to have to share me and my time with others. And they just embraced it. So I always would bring them around and let them be a part of it and not separate them from it, so that they could learn as much as I was learning about caring for a community and being an entrepreneur, starting something that you believed in, but you didn't have all the perfect business plan in place, but you just believed that you could do it and you had the passion to do it. And I was modeling that in front of them. And my daughter, she looked at it from a female standpoint too. And when she was young, she understood, and would identify a woman who may not have hair as someone who was battling cancer. And we were in the grocery store, and she found a woman like that. And before I could even stop her, she went in my handbag and took out a brochure, and she went over and said, "You have to come to this place, because it will make you feel so much better." And she handed that to the woman, the brochure. And I went over and just said, "I'm sorry if she's speaking, out of turn or making you uncomfortable." And she was like, "That's just the most beautiful thing." And she did come to Mary's Place, and
Oh,
it was lovely.
That is the most beautiful thing. My goodness.
Yeah.
So, one of the most incredible parts, there's so many incredible parts, but one of them is that women receive these services, stay at Mary's Place completely free of charge. The lodging, the breakfast and lunch, all the services. It's just amazing. So, naturally, this involves a tremendous amount of fundraising. How is it that you're able to get all this fundraising done? And tell me about the beach walk that you have once a year.
Sure. When I first started Mary's Place, that was the commitment that I wanted to make, that this would always remain free of charge to women. And having the experience of picking up the phone when someone calls, and they're usually, when they're calling in, they're at a time when it's a low point. They've heard about it, or their social worker referred them and said, you need to go here. And so when we talk to them, when we share everything that we offer, and we tell them a little bit about the retreat and what to expect, most of them will say, that sounds wonderful, but how much is this going to cost? And when we tell them that it is completely free of charge, it's 9 times out of 10, it just brings up so much emotion, because
Sure.
they're riddled with a lot of expenses during a cancer battle, medical expenses, loss of work. So there's a lot of burden. And that's a reminder to us. We have a team of 8 of us running this program, and 50 volunteers, as you had said, 55 practitioners, but a small group of women. And we are all passionate and committed to keeping it free of charge for them, because we know how vital it is for them to have this experience, and it will change their road. It will make an impact. So we created fundraisers where we could gather people and try not to spend more money than we're bringing in. And that's a talent. So our walk-a-thon now this year will be our 13th annual. We did start adding a race, a 5K race, and we bring everyone together in Ocean Grove on the pathway, a large area, and we usually expect about 1,200 people. Because our program is so individual, with 8 women per retreat, to be able to bring 1,200 people together for an event, it helps us all see the impact that we're having throughout the year, retreat after retreat, 12 months out of the year. So our guests will come, they'll bring their family members and their friends, because they are supporting them. It's our largest fundraiser of the year. We typically raise about $200,000 at this event, which helps us sustain the program throughout the year. And one of the most touching pieces to our walk-a-thon is the families who come after their loved one has passed away. And it's tough. Obviously, I struggle because I feel so connected to them, and I feel so grateful that they still support our mission.
Wow.
Even though it's probably very painful for them to come here as a reminder. And it's a day of celebration. And so we walk south along on the boardwalk to the end of Avon and come back. And then we have vendors and music and food trucks. And we just celebrate. We celebrate our mission. We celebrate our community and all those who support it. And it's such a great reminder for all of us as a team as well, the impact that we make on a day-to-day basis.
And when women come to Mary's Place by the Sea, they might come for just a few hours. They might come for a 2-night retreat. But you've said earlier that the impact is lasting. What have you heard from women about what happens when they go home? What are they able to do when they go home from the experience of being at Mary's Place?
There have been a couple of quotes that are just imprinted on me. And one quote came from a woman who just had left the retreat. She arrived not knowing anyone and left. They embrace on the porch and take group photos, and they share contact information. And she said, I left determined to keep fighting because it's worth it.
Wow.
How much more do we need to know? You know? Also, to hear a woman say, it's the retreat I never knew I needed, because our lives are just on autopilot each and every day, all of us. And this is an abrupt change. It's an abrupt experience to say, there are some things that I need to do differently. And the connections that our guests make, those bonds are unbreakable. Those guests, they continue to go into group chats week after week. Some of them name their groups, like warriors, not worriers. You know, they name themselves, and then they will meet outside of Mary's Place. They might meet for a dinner in Ocean Grove, or somewhere that's up in New York, or somewhere that's local to all of them. And to know that we had a little piece of that, to be able to start that friendship and those bonds, is it's a butterfly effect throughout our country, actually, and it's needed. It's needed everywhere.
So I sometimes ask guests if they feel like they found their purpose. I don't need to ask you that, Michele, but I do want to know, how do you feel about what you've accomplished?
I first of all have to say that when I had this dream, and Mary, and she came to me and told me to do this, I remember saying, I will do this, but you have to send me the right people. And I humbly say that I am surrounded by the most amazing people. Our board of trustees, each one of them to support us, our staff, these women are my family. And the volunteers who come shift after shift, even in the middle of summer when they can't find parking, they have changed my life. They've made me feel so blessed to be tapped on the shoulder to I've just started it, but I don't do anything alone. I'm surrounded by the most amazing people to make this work, and I feel like for every person who's here that it's changed their lives as well. And I think we all feel truly blessed to be here. I can't wait to get here every day and make it better, figure it out. I'm just the type of person who is a perfectionist, and I love to bring new team members on. And one thing I say is, you will not ever hear the phrase, we've always done it this way, because we're always open to making it better, and everyone has their talents. For me, I feel like I can lay my head on the pillow every night and look at the day and just say, well done, and let's do it again tomorrow.
And what is your vision for the future?
We open our calendar up for booking our guests for retreats just 3 months in advance. So when the calendar opens up on the first Monday of the month, it fills up in about an hour and 20 minutes. That's hard, because after that, it's a wait list of about 80 women per month, and we cap it at 80 women. We might get through half of them through cancellations. So when people say, well, you need a bigger home, my instant response is, we don't need a bigger home. We just need more of them, because we want to keep it a small, intimate mission, so that every guest here feels like she is being cared for individually, and it doesn't become too institutionalized. But I do believe that it is making a difference in every community, and I think that that needs to just move throughout the country. So that is the vision, and I think that I'm just taking one day at a time. Start to draw. We have the infrastructure in place, and I'm just going to pray a whole lot about it and pray for the right people to come along, and I believe that it will happen.
Michele Gannon, co-founder and executive director of Mary's Place by the Sea, thank you for everything you are doing to help women with cancer, and thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Sandy. Every time I get to talk about this mission like this and spread awareness, it just stirs up so much emotion in me, obviously. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and I'm so glad that you knocked on the door the day that you did.
If you found today's show helpful, please share the information with someone who needs it, and follow Still Time for Joy for more practical tips on weathering life's storms, as well as inspiring stories of people who have turned their pain into purpose. Please consider supporting the work that goes into producing the show on Patreon. Follow Sandra Levine Productions on Facebook and YouTube, and learn more at sandralevine.com.